Hello and welcome to the Real Estate Photography Podcast. My name is Drew Zink, and today I'd like to go over one of the new features in the update to Lightroom 4. It's Lightroom 4.1. And one of the great new features in it is the ability to edit natively 32-bit files. And why is this good? Well, one of the great things about Lightroom is that the sliders make sense. And one of the complaints that a lot of people have about some of the HDR processors, like Photomatix, etc., is that some of the sliders don't necessarily make sense because they're labeled completely different than what we're accustomed to, say, in Lightroom. And so what this new features allows people to do is create a 32-bit TIFF in Photoshop and then edit that TIFF like we would any other picture, but with loads of dynamic range and the ability to really pull out detail where we otherwise might not have it. So let me show you an example here. This is a house I did a couple weeks ago, and this is a photo of their pool room. And as you can see, it's kind of dark on the backside of the pool table, but we had this bright sunlight coming in right here off the window. And this is what's considered proper exposure right here. So if I basically color correct my images first, get them to a point. I know that the ceiling was white there, so just going to color correct these real quick so that I have proper images to work with. And last one. All right, so I take my images and I go Photo, Edit in, Merge to HDR Pro in Photoshop. And Photoshop will kind of churn in the background here. It normally takes, well, these are 22 megabyte files. There are the files right off of the Canon 5D Mark III. So, and they're also RAW files. So this might take a little longer than what yours might take just because these files are so big. But it churns these out pretty quickly. It actually churns the processed 32-bit file faster than what Lightroom Infuse does per file. Although with Lightroom Infuse I can kind of set it and forget it. This I have to interact with. So it's almost finished here. It's just making sure that everything is lined up correctly. And we get our 32-bit file. Now, you'll see here, up here, you have the choice of 8-bit, 16-bit, and 32-bit. And you do not want to use 16 or 8. Stay with 32. You don't have any options besides remove ghosts. And for the most part, shooting real estate, you shouldn't have to worry about removing ghosts because nothing should be moving. So you have your 32-bit file. You hit OK. And it creates this 32-bit file that will initially reside in Photoshop when it's finished creating. All right, so we're back in Photoshop now. The file has been created, and all we do is we save it. So we just go up, File, Save. And we've just saved it back into Lightroom. So I can close out of Photoshop. And here's our 32-bit file. And one of the first things you'll notice with this is if you go to the exposure slider, we have 10 stops that we can control on either side for this file. If we go over to one of the original files, you'll see that we only have 5 stops plus, 5 stops minus. So that's one of the first things you'll notice. If we come in here to the this 32-bit file. We kind of raised the exposure up about 2.5 stops, a little bit more. We can then start to bring down some of the highlights. I'm going to bring this down just a little bit. And bring up the shadows on that side. Not quite so much. Right in there. But we can start to see how we can create a 32-bit image. Bring this down even a little bit more. Or how we can start to edit 32-bit natively in Lightroom 4. Now, the colors are a little wonky over here. I may want to take one of these exposures and blend them back in just to get the colors a little bit more correct. But at least this way, I have edited this 32-bit file in a way that is, well, I have the sliders that make sense to me. So I'm not trying to use gain and strength and all that kind of stuff that we have to use in a lot of the other programs. That's what makes this so great, is that everything we use over here, we are accustomed to using. We know how to use it. It comes very natural to us. And you can make some great pictures with this. Like I said, the colors are a little crazy in here, but we can always go back, blend in a few things here and there, and make a really nice final image. And one thing I do have to say, though, is that it does not accept 32-bit files that are right out of other programs. It has to be a TIFF. Now, some of those programs do save 32-bit TIFFs, but a lot of them have their own kind of their own proprietary 32-bit file. Lightroom will not read those proprietary files. It only reads the 32-bit TIFF. So that's just something to be aware of. Well, that's it for now. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments. And until next time, thanks for watching.